What is happening, people? It is Brian Alsruhe, NEVERsate.com, and today I want to talk to you guys about the Zydrunas press, or more commonly known as the Z press. Now, Zydrunas Savickas is arguably one of the greatest strongmen of all time, and not arguably, definitely one of the greatest pressers of all time. So when there is an exercise that carries his name, it's probably one that we should pay attention to. But first, I just want to take a second and thank all of you who have already signed up for the Oneset Classic. We literally released the registration for that probably about a day and a half ago, and we're already more than half filled up with all the competitors we're gonna take. So thank you guys so much. That is unheard of in the strongman world. So amazing, amazing reaction so far. If you guys did want to do this competition, it is in Colmar, Pennsylvania. Joey Satsmary's gym, he and I are running it. All of the people from my gym are gonna be there. It's gonna be an amazing time. If you guys are interested, check out the link down below, but you're gonna need to get your spot very, very soon because we're capping it at 60 athletes, and we, like I said, we're more than halfway there already. And all that I'm really gonna say about that is you will always regret the things in life that you didn't do than the ones that you did. So if you're considering it, this is a good one to jump into. And now back to the pressing. So the Z press is such an amazing exercise because although I know many of you know, I do not believe in isolation exercise because the amount of muscles that it takes for me to raise my arm and do that is so just ridiculously stupid. I don't think you can, but look, out of all the press exercises, I will say that this one used the least amount of extra help from other muscle groups than any of the other ones that I currently do. Because if we're actually being honest with ourselves, some people's strict press or military press looks more like a standing incline bench press, which is completely understandable, guys. What's happening is that your body is trying to use those muscles to move that weight. You're telling your body, look, man, we're just gonna use our shoulders for this. We're gonna push this bar up. As soon as you go to move that weight, your body goes, you know, buddy, maybe it might be a little much. How about we call in some reinforcements, kind of help you out on this one. Hence the leaning back, which is exactly why you're able to decline press more than you can flat bench press. You can flat bench press more than you can incline press. You can incline press more than you can strict overhead press. Hence, pushing back. However, the biggest problem with that is when you decide to drive back to get that bar moving, you're giving up real estate because you are pushing that bar forward a little bit. Now, if you've watched any tutorials on my channel, whether it be a barbell row, a overhead press, a squat, a deadlift, I will always tell you that you are strongest when the bar is over the middle of your foot. That is where you have the most biomechanical strength backing you up. It's like pillars on a building. The more spine and leg that you have underneath that thing, the more weight you are going to move. But again, if you shoved it back and you're pushing that bar away from you, it might have gotten it started, and that can get people very, very far. However, the problem comes when you got that real estate out there, you can't finish that press unless your head gets back underneath and your spine starts getting back underneath that barbell, which if you were in this position, I can literally hold a gun to your head and say, try whatever you want, and you will not be able to move it. You're kind of in a weird counterbalance, no man's zone, right? You're just killing the time that's killing us all. So in order to get any horsepower back into that press, you're gonna need to start moving your head back underneath that barbell, and this is something that the Z press teaches excellently. If you've done any sort of overhead press in your life, you will know that your chin and face get in the way, so you absolutely need to get out of the way somehow. So if you're gonna lean back to get out of the way, do that. If you're gonna flip your chin up, do that. If you're gonna pack your chin and give yourself a double chin, do that. Whatever you need to get your face out of the way, that is no problem at all. But one thing is for sure, if you want to have a successful big press, as soon as that bar gets up to around the crown of your head, you need to start forcing your head back through. This is something that was taught to me actually by Brian Shaw's wife many, many moons ago, before Brian Shaw's wife was Brian Shaw's wife, and she taught me that doing an overhead press is essentially like you have your hands on a windowsill, you're pushing it open, and then you're sticking your head out. In fact, in a lot of strongman competitions, you won't even get a down command on a overhead press until the judges can see this side of your face or even your ear in front of your arm. So getting your head back through is massively, massively important. So if you're in a situation where your overhead press has been stuck for quite a while, it's probably because you're sticking yourself in such a bad position that you can't create any more energy underneath that bar, and the Z press is gonna fix that technique to get you there, as well as building your shoulders, both for size and for strength, your traps, your triceps, your upper back, and of course, your core. And I can hear all of you now saying, but wait, Brian, how do we do a Z press? And actually, I'm very happy you asked that because I don't really have anything else to say about it. So when you're gonna perform a Z press, first thing you need to tackle is where you're going to do it. Now, ideally, you will be in some sort of cage or power rack that has safety pins or straps or some type of mechanisms meant to hold a barbell in case something goes wrong. In this scenario, you can set those pins just below where you're gonna be for that front rack position, so you can just climb in there, unrack it, and start pressing away. And in that unlikely scenario for if you do fall backwards when you will fall backwards, which actually works out perfectly because then those catches stop that barbell instead of your teeth. But I do recognize that not everyone is in that situation. They don't have access to those types of things. So you can go as simple as bringing 2 benches together or stacking up jerk blocks, or even going as ghetto as just stacking up a bunch of bumper plates. Do some stuff, man. Figure it out. This is such a good exercise that you're gonna need to figure out some way to do this. And also, guys, a lot of people do not like doing this out of the rack, but I see no problem with that. The problem is that most people set up for the Z press when they're sitting on the ground in a rack the same way that they would if they're gonna do an overhead press, which is very, very close. So when they bring that bar up, they're already in half of a sit-up position. And that's not gonna last long, especially under weight. So if you choose to practice Z press out of a rack, all you need to do is when you set up, just come back another 3 or 4 inches with your butt away from the bar. Now this is gonna make you have to lean in to unrack the bar and lean back in to re-rack the bar. However, it is a lot better than trying to lean back and doing kind of a hollow rock while trying to Z press. Now, the second thing you might notice about Z press is that you are sitting on your butt. That's important. If you're not sitting on your butt, you're not doing a Z press. Yeah. But then you have this really hard decision on what to do with your legs. Some people like to spread them out. Some people like to keep them together. All that I'll say is if you think about like outriggers on a canoe, almost everything is stronger with a wider base. So for me personally, I spread my legs out wide. That said, you're gonna get some pretty crazy hip flexor cramps and thigh cramps. It's gonna be, you'll see. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be real good. Also, for those of you thinking about it, your feet cannot be hooked under anything. You can't be touching anything. They just need to be out there, okay? If they're touching anything, you're cheating. That's the whole point, is being able to stabilize yourself, not using your feet to stabilize yourself. Wow. And then the final thing you need to take into consideration, just like you do with every barbell exercise, is your breathing and bracing. Now, it's especially important here, if you guys are a fan of the channel at all and you've seen some of my overhead press tutorials, my thinking about the breathing and bracing on Z press is the exact same as virtually every other overhead press, and that is I can never get as much air into my belly when I'm in a front rack position than I can without. So for me personally, before I take that bar out of the rack, I'm gonna get as much air into my belly and I'm gonna brace it down and then take on that load. Especially when you're in this compromised, kind of squished up sitting position when you already can't get a full breath of air. If you would be so kind, do this for me. Raise your arms above your head and take a huge belly breath. You can get a lot. Now drop your arms down here and do it again. You can't get as much. Science. For this reason, we need to consider when and how we get our air. Now, before I unrack that bar at all, I'm squeezing it as hard as possible, just like in every single other barbell or weight training exercise. You're always squeezing as hard as you possibly can. But then once I do that, I get my huge air, I brace, I unrack that bar, and I start pressing immediately. Now, I know a lot of people, once they unrack a bar in an overhead press, like to kind of take a second and get a feeling for it, but trust me on this, it is not gonna feel good. There's not one Z press I've ever done in my life when I've unracked that bar and went, wow, this is a pleasant experience. It's not gonna feel good. So the sooner you start, the sooner you get done, and you're on a time clock because you're still holding that very first breath. From the time that I unracked that bar, I got my breath, unracked the bar, and started pressing. I will get as many presses as I can on that first breath. Now, when I say as many presses as I can, what I mean is press until you have one more left before you run out of air. Don't go to sleepy time. Sleepy time is fun, but less so when you're holding things above your head. But once you do get that last rep and you say to yourself, I do not have enough air for another rep. What I want you to do is stop at the last lockout of your previous rep, get your breath there, and then drop in. What that's gonna do is fill up your torso with all of that air so that as you come down, it's like compressing a spring. There's not gonna be enough room for that bar and all that air, so as it comes down, you're gonna be able to rock it out of the bottom and get another press. You continually do this multiple times. Trust me, this is one of the best tips I've ever learned for the overhead press. You'll be able to get countless more reps just by doing that, so definitely give that one a try if you don't do anything else from this video. Which brings me to the final part of the video, which is when do I throw these into my programming? Now, the Z press is very, very versatile. In the hierarchy of pressy things, I might even put this above the strict press. They're kind of right there with each other. Now, the reason why is because you are able to just focus so much more on your delts in the Z press. I've seen people who have taken entire training cycles off of the strict press or any other overhead press just on the Z press, and they definitely made progress through that when they went back to using the rest of their body for whatever type of variation they were doing. So I think it can absolutely be used as your main mover on your overhead press day, especially if you're one of those people that I described earlier who is in a situation where your overhead press is a little bit stalled out, and that most likely is because you're leaning so far back, right? So this is gonna break you of that habit, plus building up your shoulders, your traps, your rear back, your upper, not as opposed to your front back. When I start saying things like that, it's about time for this to get wrapped up. So yeah, as a main mover, it's completely fine. You can of course use it as assistance. I just put out an overhead press assistance finishers video that covers a ton of this, and you see the Z press show up a lot there. I love the idea of doing a main mover that is especially super heavy, and then you drop in and kind of hit this for more like hypertrophy and rep work, volume stuff on the Z press. And then of course you can always use it for conditioning or endurance or whatever the case may be. Just throw in Tabatas, for instance. Do Tabata Z press with an empty bar as a finisher. You'll be very, very happy that you did. So yeah, guys, there you go. There is a basic rundown of what the Z press is, how to do it, when to do it, all those types of things. I hope many of you will find this helpful. Now, this actually came from in the comment section. As you guys know, I'm trying to spend more time in there, interact with you guys. Someone asked for a how-to about the Z press. I read it, said that's a good idea. I'll do that. So if there is something you guys would like to see me cover, throw it down in the comment section down below. If I agree and I think it's a cool topic, then I'll absolutely do it. I love doing things for you guys because after all, if you guys don't watch it, I don't really have a channel. So if you guys have stuff that you'd like to see, it would be useful if we communicated. Other things, remember, if you do want to sign up for the Lionsgate Classic, the time is now. It's probably going to be open, I would say, a couple more days to a week, and then it's going to be all filled up and you're not going to have that chance. Do not die with regret, people. Go out, give it a shot, see what happens. Also, these shirts, just about gone. The hoodies, I think these zip-up hoodies, I think there's like 3 left, kind of random sizes. Once they're gone, they're gone. And then the black pullover hoodies, I think there's a couple more of those left, but if you guys did want to pick some of those up, absolutely do that. Guys, if you do not know how our t-shirts run, once they go, they go. We put out a style, a color, or whatever. Once it's gone, we do not restock. They're gone forever. So if you guys do see something that you want, make sure that you get it at that time, because I feel so bad when people want to wear something and we just don't have it anymore. But the deal that I have with that company, that's how things go. So I really do appreciate all the support, guys. I hope to see some of you in the competition. I hope you guys end up Z pressing as well as overhead pressing everything better. Thank you guys so much. I'll catch you up later in the week. Until I do, go out to something amazing, realize, keep working hard, people. Be nice to each other. See you then.